comedian thing's important. We sometimes have non-comedians, and we can do a bit of that, but it's something. It wasn't how we set out necessarily, but there does seem to be something about the way comedians' minds work. The comedians are very good at making connections. You know, they're good
So
at.
they almost help the learning.
Yeah, well, what they do is they don't know the answers. The whole point about QI is it's not really a quiz. Nobody knows the answers. But what they're good at doing is taking the material and seeing funny potential in it. And, you know, that's sort of what you want, particularly if you've done, as we've done, we've tried to mine this material and make it clear and intelligible. And, you know, Stephen delivers it in that brilliantly kind of authoritative, slightly deadpan way he has as the truth. And then they're there to sort of pick holes in it and you know, to sort of make it kind of is a bit like a schoolroom, you know, Stephen as headmaster and the unruly pupils.
What sort of a role does Stephen play? I mean, obviously, originally the plan was to have Michael Palin play the host. Stephen Fry has just become inextricably linked with QI now. Really,
yeah, I mean, John's original conception when he sort of devised the format was to have two teams. One was the know-it-alls, led by Stephen, and the other was the know-nothings, led by Alan. And he'd worked with both of them before. And then the thought was we'd have somebody reasonably friendly and neutral like Michael Palin as the chair. But then Michael decided he didn't want to do it, and John had to beg, basically, Stephen, just for the pilot to stand in.
How much begging went on?
Well, no, you know, it wasn't what Stephen was expecting. So we threw him in the deep end.
Was he happy about it?
Well, within about 10 minutes, I think, Stephen, the audience, the panel, everybody in the world sort of could see that it was the job he was born to do. I mean, it's just, he's brilliant. I mean, you know, there's a huge stack of notes. I was saying to somebody, a QI script is about, you know, 8,000 to 10,000 words. It's quite a lot of stuff in there. And he will get that at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, on the afternoon of the show, and go through it, his cards. And, well, you know, you've seen the show. He delivers that information as though it's stuff, you know, that had just occurred to him. That's all that he's known all his life. I mean, it's an extraordinary experience watching Stephen work like that. And I think it makes him look like the world's most brilliant man. He probably is the world's most brilliant man anyway, but it doesn't help to have all that. And I think he, as soon as it meant it was slightly lopsided, but I think in a funny kind of way, the teams would have made it more competitive. And I think weirdly, as often with these things, the format sort of works because it had to.
I've always had the feeling that with QI, it's very popular with men. Does that bear out in the demographics?
You would think so. You know, there is a sort of that idea of men and trivia and information. But interestingly, when you look at our demographics, one of the reasons that people love us is that it's stretched right across the spectrum. We're very good at younger viewers, and we're quite good, you know, right the way through. And it's actually split pretty much equally, with slightly more women than men. Who knows? I mean, it might be the time it's on, you know, cuddly Stephen, cuddly Alan, you know, they're popular. I suspect that also that although there is that kind of, isn't that amazing kind of, you know, look and learn sort of idea that men love collecting weird bits of information, that I think I think it's again connected to the idea is that it isn't one of those shows that women actually say, oh, that's just men showing off. You know, we don't, as everybody points out, we would love to have more women on. We you know, each series, I think we get better at having a balance. But I don't think it's a show that necessarily, I mean, well, I would say the demographics would seem to indicate that it works as well for women as it works for men.
I'm quite interested as to why it's taken a while to get more women on, actually.
Yeah, I think it's just to do with that, because we use comedians. I think it is changing pretty rapidly. I think 10 years ago there were fewer high-profile comedians. We had, you know, there was a generation that French and Saunders, Victoria Wood, for reasons that were perfectly, you know, good, decided that they didn't want to go on panel shows. That's changed. I think there are a lot more. I mean, we've certainly, this last series we've done, we've had some great, you know, Sue Perkins has been brilliant, Sandy Toksvig's been brilliant, Ronnie Ancona's brilliant, Joe Brand has been brilliant right from the start, and I think there's a whole generation of younger female comics